What's up, y'all? It's TN back again with another video. Today's video is going to be about working multiple jobs in the tech industry. A little bit about myself. My name's TN. I have been working multiple jobs simultaneously in the tech industry for a little over 2 years now. At one point, I was working up to 3 jobs, shooting for 4. Never got the 4th job, but hey, I was working 3 jobs simultaneously for 6-month streak, and then I was working 2 jobs for the last over 2 years now, since 2021, like at the end of 2021, almost like summer, fall 2021. And yeah, I've been able to sustain 2 jobs since, and it's been a crazy journey. I figured now it's going to be a better time than ever to start documenting about what I've learned and my advice and what I think you guys should do if you guys should pursue this type of career or not. I mean, just this overemployment lifestyle, if it's a good move for you or not. And so I'll get to that answer at the end of this video. I'm gonna kind of go through like my whole mindset of things, my setup even a little bit, and not too much detail. If you guys want to see the actual setup in a future video, I'll be more than happy to do so. But this video, the purpose of this one is to just discuss on a higher level of like where my mindset was at going into this, where was it at during, and where it is at now, and essentially just talking about this in a way where those of you out there, or even myself, can look back on to just not make the same mistakes. And that's kind of the theme of all the videos that I've been posting, is sharing the mistakes that I've made so that you guys don't have to make the same mistakes, or at least a future version of myself can go back and remind myself of, hey, that was a mistake, don't do that again. But hey, we're not perfect out here. We sometimes make the same mistakes, and that's okay. But as long as we try to stop making those same mistakes, that's the idea, right? And that's where growth lies. That's where I'm trying to get to, y'all. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Mindset. Where was my mindset before working multiple jobs, and where my mindset was at during working multiple jobs, and where my mindset is now that I'm still working multiple jobs. So the mindset going into working 2 jobs at first, right? It ended up being 3 at one point and pursuing 4 at one point. But what happened was, I think I fell into a kind of cycle that a lot of people might relate to that are in corp. It doesn't even necessarily have to be within the tech sector or industry. I think this kind of spans across the whole corporate industry, and that's, you go through the cycle of trying to perform so that you get good reviews on your performance reviews. That way you can get promoted and climb the corporate ladder, right? And that's where I was at. I was fresh out of boot camp back in 2018-ish, and I scored a senior software engineering role, and that was very rare amongst most people that go to a coding boot camp. I didn't think many actually graduated and got a senior role right off the rip, but I was one of the lucky few. What can I say? And yeah, so I scored a senior software engineering role at a fintech company that got acquired by a large bank, not one of the largest, but a fairly large bank. I got that role, and I was super excited, super humble, and super happy. I mean, like, my whole career just changed. I went from being a technical recruiter to a full-on programmer, senior software engineer, senior at that, right? That was an exciting time getting that job. But fast forward about a little over 2 years into that job, I thought I was performing quite well. Every performance, every annual review, it was the same thing. That first annual review I got was, hey, you did well, but because of budget cuts and whatnot and the pandemic, we're not going to give you a raise, we're not going to give you a promotion. And I was like, all right, whatever, what have you. I was okay with that. That was my first job. I didn't ask for much, I was just happy where I was, and I was happy about it. But everywhere, all my peers, they got raises and everything. So I'm just like, within the same company, might have you. And yeah, that kind of made me feel a type of way at first, but I didn't pay it too much attention because I was like, well, I jumped straight to senior, so maybe that had a little bit of what to do with it. But fast forward another year of grinding and putting my all and investing my efforts into the company and into my job, into these projects, and successfully delivering, might I add you. And it turns out that the second annual review that comes around, I'm given the same excuses. Hey, we didn't make budget this year. Hey, we don't want to promote you yet. I think another couple years you'll get promoted. I think and they'll give you some. They gave me some excuses like, oh, you weren't delivering in this area or this area, but there was no proper like expectations of like I have to meet those guidelines or I have to deliver in those areas. What I was given throughout the year was, hey, these are the projects at hand. These are the deadlines of when to deliver those projects, and then I actually deliver it ahead of time. So, doing such, in my opinion, amazing work, and hearing from the even higher ups, not my direct manager, saying that, oh, this project, this app, this whatever brought in this much money and did this for the company and had so much exposure and all these things, and then I'm just kept in this role, and I'm like, what am I doing all this work for if I'm not even getting praise for it? I'm just getting a little pat on the back. Hey, good job, you delivered. But this is the next thing you need to do. And this is the next thing you need to do. And then when it comes time for review, it's like, oh, you still weren't good enough. And, most would just take that and be like, all right, I need to work on myself to be better. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I have a little bit of ego. I didn't take it too lightly. So I was like, yo, these guys aren't really looking, these guys and girls might have you, they're not really looking for my best interest. They're looking for the company's best interest. They wanted me to just be a slave. At least that's what my ego was telling me. I might have been wrong. I don't know. But I was listening to my ego at the time. This a few years back. And I was like, I'm gonna start interviewing. These guys aren't appreciating me. I didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel like my efforts were rewarded properly. I was at least feeling like I needed at least a raise. I didn't need a promotion. I was fine with being a senior. But at the very least, give me even a 3% bump, yo. Like, you couldn't even do that. So that pushed me to go job search, go on the market, do a bunch of interviews. And I did this the first year. I did a round of interviews the first year around. And I didn't get a job offer, but at the same time, I wasn't like gung-ho about it. I was like, oh, the annual review wasn't like on par, so maybe they don't even like me, so I'm just gonna go interview just to be safe. I wasn't like, oh, I need to get a job. I was just like, I got an interview. I just want to be safe just in case, things don't go well this next quarter or whatever. There's layoffs or something like that. Who knows? So I was just interviewing just to be safe and just to stay on my toes with like the interviewing process, because the tech industry, for those of you that know, the interviewing process is pretty rigorous, and a lot of studying is needed to be done. So I did that just to kind of just test the waters with the market, see what's going on, how the market looks, what other companies are doing, and how they're interviewing and whatnot. And it helped me with my engineering skills anyway, because I was doing these technical interviews. I was doing that first time around. I probably did like 20 different companies. Wasn't too insane. Some might say it's insane, but once I start talking about the numbers later, you guys might be like, all right, that's insane. But yeah, that first year, that first annual review, that made me do some interviews, but I wasn't like ego tripping. I was just worried. That second year annual review, that really pushed me over there. Just like, no, I'm getting a different job. Like I gotta get out of here. I don't want to work with these guys anymore. Like, I don't want to be here. And that was like the mindset of going into looking for a new job. And that was the mindset I had. My mindset was, I'm looking for a new job. And so I started interviewing. I was applying rigorously. I applied for over 500 jobs in the span of like 2 weeks, all on LinkedIn, just a bunch of easy applies and a bunch of like greenhouse applications, just like any company, any job openings. I just every day on my phone, on the computer, I was just always applying. And then I ended up having like a bunch of interviews. Luckily, I was working from home, so I was able to take these virtual interviews during like in between hours of meetings and whatnot for my actual job. And I ended up interviewing like 20 jobs a week, like 20 different companies a week. And keep in mind, these interviews are either like, there's be days where I have like back-to-back 15 different interviews, and I would just say I can't show up to meetings, or I'll take a sick day or whatever. And Yeah, because some of the intro interviews, they're usually like 15, 30 minutes, but then the technical rounds, those are like an hour long. So there'll be like weeks, like it was just like back to back for like a whole month straight, at least 20 in a week, if not 100 in a week. Am I saying that right? Nah, not 100. That's a little over exaggerating. But there will be times where I have like 10 a day for like 2, 3 days in a row. So that's like 30 in 3 days. And then, yeah, so like 50 at most in a week, at the least 20 in a week, depending on if it was like all mid rounds that week or like some mid rounds and some intros or just all intros, right? And so I was going. I was like, I was determined to get a new job. And so then I actually landed a job offer for a very large company out in the Silicon Valley. They're not like a tier 0, tier 1 company by any means, but they are publicly traded. So then, the pay and the RSUs was very nice and very handsome there. And I was very excited. I was very juiced. I was like, yo, I knew I can get what I was, what I wanted. Like essentially I just wanted a raise, but it ended up being double the pay that I was getting paid. And keep in mind, I was getting paid a very modest market rate senior software engineering compensation at that fintech role. The RSU was just crazy. So I ended up getting double and a fat sign-on bonus. I think I negotiated the sign-on bonus. I negotiated like an extra 20K. I ended up getting like 35K sign-on bonus. It was insane. I'm not even gonna talk about the RSUs and the actual base salary, maybe for another video. And yeah, negotiations, that's probably gonna be another video too. I love negotiating. I mean, I think it came from like my experience as a technical recruiter. But anyway, I ended up getting that job. And in that same time frame, I came across a subreddit called Overemployed, where there was a bunch of people, and like 8% of people there at the time were in the tech industry and they were working multiple jobs. So then it kind of piqued my interest. I don't even know how I landed there. I think actually a coworker of mine in the fintech company sent me a Y Combinator article or like a blog post on the Y Combinator blog of someone saying they were working 10 jobs and making over 1.2 million a year. And I'm like, what? And like I was reading the thread and like some of the replies, and it was like, yeah, like the sweet spot's looking for companies that like aren't too big but aren't too small, and that have projects with no clear like acceptance criterias and da 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 da. Just like this like very short, concise reply, but like that kind of hit it, like clicked with me, where I'm like, yo, people can really fly under the radar at these tech companies, because like coming from the technical recruitment side of things, and also seeing corp for what it is, I started noticing like that is very doable. A lot of people on the internet will say like, yo, that's impossible, that's not real, that's cap. But I saw it and I'm like, yo, I think this can work, because essentially it takes you like 6 months to get fired. Even if you're at Amazon, where they're like known for their high turnover rate in terms of firing, they hire and fire a lot, like in a year. But again, that's in a year. That's a year's pay. A year's software engineering pay over like 6 figures in a year. That's a lot of money still, for at least for someone like me. And so I saw the potential in this approach, right? This approach towards working, as far as in the tech industry or corporate America. And so, I already had this mindset of vengeance towards the fintech company. And then I also didn't necessarily want to be bad or do bad or perform poorly at my new role at this like larger company. But I was already in a mindset of like, yo, corporate doesn't really care about you. Like, this is even a larger corporate. There's even more red tape here. So like they probably really don't care about you. So I went into that job with that mindset. I got hired as a senior software engineer there as well. And lo and behold, I was actually kind of grateful for that job, because like my peers were pretty much on the same boat in terms of like, yo, like we're a team and we understand that corporate, they don't really care about us. We're just here to do our job and get out. Like that was like my immediate team, my peers, like the staff engineers on my team and like the other junior mid-levels. They were all like, they're all cool with that. Like, and they didn't need to know that I was working multiple jobs, but and I didn't tell them, at least not until after we all got laid off, and that's a story for another time. But it was pretty insane to have peers that were like on the same page, and we like banded together. And the company itself was very design driven, which was very different for me, coming from a fintech company that's very engineering oriented, and like having other peers in other companies and seeing how they go about their day to day, and seeing that like most companies are very either product driven or engineering driven. It's rarely you come across a tech company, especially that's publicly traded, that's very large, be design driven. So that caused a lot of friction within the engineering department, and so it was very easy for us in my team to have more camaraderie, and we, banded together and like, yo, like we need to like take our step forward, like our foot down, and like, yo, there's too many meetings, for example, or like we need to do async stand up. Like we were like so adamant about these nuances about how we wanted to go about our day to day as engineers, and I feel like that like those politics played into the role of me being able to actually manage the two jobs when I first started doing it, and made me even believe that I could do 3 or even 4, was because I didn't care. I didn't care about the companies. I didn't care about the higher ups. I didn't care about the stock value. I didn't care about these things. I was there to generate some capital so that I can get out of the tech industry and then pursue larger goals for myself, like the Airbnb that I talked about in the last video of acquiring the Airbnb. I didn't talk about how I acquired it, but essentially this is really the mindset I had. I was like, if I even made 150K gross, and then in 6 months that's 75K gross, pre-tax, and that was extra money on top of what I was already making, that's a no-brainer for me. That's like a down payment for a home. So the money just like made sense, like in terms of that large sum of money. And so I felt weird about it at first, though. I would talk to my parents about it, my family, and my closest friends. And my closest friend was like, yo, go for it. I mean, what do you have to lose, right? And a lot of people on the Overemployed subreddit was like talking about like, don't even tell anyone, like just do it. And so I can see that advice playing very well. It's like probably the smartest strategy to go about, but I'm like very close to my parents, and I'm very close to my close friends, and so I trust them. Like they wouldn't out me, but I can also see how like judgment can and biases can grow from seeing me work multiple jobs and like making all this money or whatever. And so, but I didn't care. I didn't want this to change who I was and my relationships. So I was very open about it with my close friends and family. And so, but I did see the repercussions of talking about it. Like right when I brought up the idea with my parents, they're like, no, don't do it. This is a horrible idea. You should never do that. You're going to get fired for both jobs. Blah, 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 blah. Burn bridges, like the very traditional mindset, and they come from a smaller town. Then I'm in New York, like working this fast-paced, more progressive career style. Whereas they're more traditional. They don't really hop jobs. My dad's worked in this company for over 30, almost 40 years. Same with my mom. So I understand where they're coming from, but like in this new age, in this new time, in this modern world, job hopping is like the easiest way to get a huge pay bump, because corporate is still working on traditional trajectories. They're still just giving like small bumps of like 3 to 7% pay raises. Tech industry might be a little different, but even then, no job is gonna bump you 20% on a promotion unless you're very lucky or very skilled or kissing a lot of ass. And so yeah, I ended up telling them, and I listened to them, but I still trust my gut instinct, and I still followed what I believed I wanted to do and my goals. And I believed I was like, even if I lost both jobs, I didn't care about burning bridges, because there's so many jobs at that time. This was circa 2021. 2021, the start of the OE lifestyle. And I saw during that time period that job market was insane. There was like 100 new job listings every day within the tech and software engineering field. And so I was like, yo, I have nothing to lose. I can just look for another job and find another job within a month. that's the mindset I had going into it. And again, I was going off of ego at the time as well, just because I was like very adamant at just like not caring about the fintech job. So at the very least, I knew that my primary focus was this new job, and I would place and prioritize those meetings over the meetings I had from my last job. And I was just trying to milk that other company. I was just trying to milk that last one, that fintech one, because I felt screwed over. I wanted to get, at least something out of it. So I was just milking it. Because either way, like if I resigned, then I kind of give up on like some paychecks, and those are fat paychecks. So in my eyes, I was like, well, what do I have to lose? They're gonna fire me, and then fire me. It's all good. I already got another job. Yeah, so that's how I started working multiple jobs, and then how it went. Right, I went into it, and like I said, I ended up getting another job. I went into both jobs, and I didn't care about that first job, and so the new job was my main job, and I was prioritizing it. And like I said before, the team was like very camaraderie. We're all about like trying to make our day-to-day easier for ourselves, and that way we can focus on work when we need to work, or at least get into the flow of things. And so it was kind of easy. It's kind of chill, and there was like a lot of transitions happening in that said job, because we were coming fresh out of like a huge layoff, and I was hired as like a replacement for the old layoffs. And then so job security there wasn't like fully there anyway, so my thing was just like to maintain. I wasn't aiming to be like the top dog there. I also wasn't aiming to be like the bottom one. I just want to be in the middle of the pack. That way, like worst comes to worst, I'm not the first to be let go, but also I'm not overworking myself, because again, I had to have some attention span for my other job. And ultimately that led me to have a mindset of like, well, either way, I didn't really care about that first job. I'm going to give it up anyway, or I'm going to get fired from it anyway. So why not look for another job to replace that job, since I have the bandwidth to do so. And at the time, I was also fresh out of a relationship. Well, not fresh out. I was engaged at the time, and the relationship was pretty rocky. So I ended up trying to focus on getting another job. I ended up going on another crazy interviewing spree. I interviewed at like this third time around. I think I interviewed at damn near 500 jobs as well. Ended up getting another job offer within like 3 weeks. It was at this startup in Austin, Texas, in the e-commerce space. And keep in mind, when you're looking for these multiple jobs, make sure there's no conflicts of interest. As in, you don't want to work for jobs that directly compete with each other, or are in the same industry. And what I also did was try to look for jobs with different time zones. That way, like the overlap, the chance of meetings overlapping was a lot lower. And so, my original job was in New York, and then the new job I got was in SF, Silicon Valley. So it's on West Coast time, 3-hour time difference. And then this third job I ended up getting was in Austin, so that's in Central time. And so there wasn't as many overlaps, and it made it possible. So I was able to I was able to maintain 3 jobs for over 6 months. And it would have went longer if I didn't get laid off. And I got laid off by all 3 of them, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. And I didn't get fired, by the way. I got laid off, which is kind of crazy. If you guys remember, like the great layoffs or whatever of last year, 2022, the end of last year, just after Elon Musk at X or Twitter, he ended up like laying off like half the company. That influenced so many companies to take advantage of being able to lay off. And I want to talk about this in another video too, about like the reason why companies lay off. It's actually more than, I have my opinions on it. I might be completely wrong, but anyway, that's a topic for another video. So yeah, I ended up getting 3 jobs, and that was intense. When I was in the mix of things, I was like, I could do this fine. Like, I didn't care about any of these jobs. I don't care about anyone, basically. Like, I just show up and show out. Like, I didn't like perform my best. I didn't like do anything crazy. I didn't deliver anything crazy, but I also didn't like not deliver. I was just doing like the bare minimum at all 3 jobs. But I was placing precedence on the Silicon Valley job because that was the highest pay. So like, I didn't want to lose that one. I could risk losing the other 2, and the other 2 was just there just to put some more extra cash into my pockets. And so I ended up doing that for 6 months, like I said, and I was actually really enjoying the third job I got, because it was like a new startup that was growing super rapidly. It was like a unicorn in a sense, And so they had like the latest and greatest technologies. I was working, the developer experience was amazing, phenomenal compared to the other two jobs. And it was kind of cool having like access to these 3 repos at the same time, these 3 code bases, and seeing the different tools and technologies that are being used, and like being able to like reference one when I'm trying to like improve the other. It was kind of nice. It was giving me exposure to a lot of, ways to do things and engineer things. And so like I learned a lot during that time frame. But in retrospect right now, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, my mental health did take a toll, but it didn't take immediate toll. It wasn't even like a burnout. It was like, it was a crazy amount of stress that was placed on me, that when I was in it, I didn't think much of it because I was like, I didn't care. I don't care about these jobs. But the reality is like, you're still in these jobs. Like I'm still working these 3 jobs. And so, the thought of just even like having a conversation about getting fired, or just having tough conversations, or even like the fact that there was like 3 overlapping meetings at one time, like how do I go to one or the other, or do I listen to all 3 at the same time? Like what am I supposed to do in these situations? How do I prioritize? And like I ultimately like figured it out, and I was like, I don't care, I'll just listen to the one that I think it matters most, is usually the the SF one, the one that paid the most. So I just go to that meeting. I don't even attend the other ones. But that, although that's like as simple as I did it, the toll it took on my mental was a lot in retrospect, right? And when you're in it, you don't really think about it. And so when I was in, I was like, oh, I think I could do 4. So I kept looking for jobs, but like this 4th time around of interviewing for jobs, I couldn't do it, because it was like I had so many meetings on my calendar. So I was doing back-to-back meetings, and then I would throw in an interview here and there, but I wasn't in the right frame of mind to even interview properly. And I didn't need the extra money. There was like 3 paychecks coming in, like every other week. There was weeks where they were overlap, and I get 3 paychecks in one day, and these paychecks were like damn near $5-6 grand each, like after taxes. And so I'm just like, this is a lot of money. Like this is a lot of money. And so it was insane. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, it was insane. And so the checks were nice, but over time my mental kept like getting destroyed. And like I was going through the breakup, the engagement got called off, and me and my ex broke up at the time, and that took a toll on me as well. So then I kind of prioritized working out more than even the jobs. And so I didn't perform quite well at the jobs, but it did keep me very busy. But at the same time, I was like, I don't care if I lose all these jobs. I'll just get another job. But that's what I would say. But then, like, in retrospect, my mind wasn't like sane or even like at peace during that time period. I was working 3 jobs and fresh out of a breakup. Anyway, it was an insane time. Like that was where my mindset was at the time. I was just very like indifferent about these jobs, indifferent about the managers, like just because I had such a salty relationship with the fintech manager. And keep in mind, I'm still working with him, right? But oh man, that job was freaking something else. It started adding up where like I would like show up and like be fake, and I just didn't like that. I didn't like faking it just so I can get these paychecks, but like obviously it was paying a lot, so I was just like, I just fake it for a little bit, whatever. Like this is not for the rest of my life. And so that was what I did. And so fast forward the 6 months of working 3 jobs and into like the season of layoffs of last year, November, I get my first conversation about getting pipped at the fintech company. And keep in mind, they never did a pip before in their life, and so they decided to put me on pip, which is expected. I was not performing. I was barely showing up to meetings. I was just there doing the bare minimum, actually even less than the bare minimum. So they put me on performance improvement plan, and my ass did not care. I just straight up said, this sounds like you guys are about to just let me go, and this is just a process that you guys are doing to let me go, so can we just negotiate the exit package? And so I ended up negotiating a pretty fat sum of money with the exit package there, just by doing so, instead of just wasting another month working there with the possibility of staying on when the reality was they're gonna let me go anyway. And so, and that's another conversation topic for another video. I want to talk about like this whole idea of negotiating, exiting. And let me know if you guys actually want to hear about that because I could talk about that too. That I got a lot of experiences with layoffs and negotiating on the exit, not just the job offers themselves. But yeah, so ended up negotiating an exit package. I was actually so hyped, right? I ended up getting an exit package where they were paying me for the next 3 months, right? And I was gonna get paid checks for 3 months from the fintech job, and I get to work these other 2 jobs. So I'm still getting checks from 3 jobs, but I'm only working 2 jobs. So I only had the mental stress from 2 jobs. And I was like, oh, this is nice. You know, that like going from 3 jobs and like the mental toll from that to like, all right, now one's off the books and I'm still getting paid. It was like, it was nice. It was very nice. Couldn't complain. But that sense of relief and pleasure even was short-lived because, excuse me, that was like a little spitty. But yeah, it was short-lived because less than like 3 weeks later, I get called into a meeting for both my jobs in the same day. And in the meeting included like the HR person. I'm like, what is going on? These meetings look familiar. They look similar to the one from the fintech one that was trying to pit me. So the first one comes around. It was like my main job, or no, the first one, yeah, was with the main job, right? The one in SF. They're like, hey, we're sorry to let you go. We're laying off like half the company again. We're not doing so well. Da 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 da. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And thankful that I was able to still get my RSUs because there was a 1-year cliff at that job. And I was a little worried about that because that would have been like hundreds of thousands gone. And so, yeah, it was after the cliff because they said that the layoffs are happening now, but like your effective like unemployment date is going to be in January. And so that would mean I was employed for more than a year. So I got my stocks. I was like, all right, cool, we're good. And they were giving me more money on top of that. They were going to give me an exit package. They were giving me like another extra like 100K just to like lay me off. And I was like, all right, cool. So in my head, I'm like, yo, I get 3 months of pay from the fintech job. I get 3 months of pay, or like 2.5 months of pay from the SF job, and I get 100K. And I get the stocks that were like almost 200K. So I'm getting in like damn near 300K just to now work one job. But I did have another meeting. Oh no, that was what my mindset was. But then I see another meeting get set up 3 hours later with the third job in the Austin job. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, same thing. There's an HR person in there. I show up, but this time it wasn't as like personal because I've only been there for 6 months and I didn't really talk to that manager much. So he was just reading a Word document, I'm pretty sure. And so they were letting me go, and they were giving me an extra package of like 10K, which was like, that was like a reminder to me. That was like a reminder. It's like, yo, this is why you need to work at least 2 jobs because you don't know what's gonna happen because these guys really didn't care that they're letting me go. Obviously, you can say they cared because they gave me 10K or whatever, but like keep in mind like that wasn't enough to sustain living in New York, like. And like if that was my only job, I would have kind of been, if I didn't have any savings and that was my only job, I would have been screwed. And they were just laying people off because it was just like the great layoffs or whatever. They were laying people off, they laid me off, and then I was like, yo, that was like a quick reminder, like, yo, these corps really don't care about you. Even if they're a startup, doesn't matter what size they are, like they don't care. Everything's just a number to them, right? So yeah, ended up getting that 10K. I know a lot of you out there might be like, yo, 10K is still a lot, but like, yo, my rent is like damn near, it's like more than half of that every month. So like, I'm thankful for all the other stuff. So I was good. I was good for like at least another year or whatever if I needed to just survive what I had. But me, I'm not gonna just sit around and do nothing. I needed to look for another job, and I was looking for another job this time around. Like there was no tomorrow. I ended up interviewing at like damn near 200 companies in the span of 2 weeks. I landed a job offer in a week. I don't know if I set the world record because I'm sure there's people out there that like just know higher ups or whatever, and they just like do one round interview and they get a job in a day. But like I'm not that person. I don't have these like relationships in the tech industry that like will just give me a job like that. I had an interview, right? And like interviews in the tech industry is like at least like 3 rounds. And the middle round is like a technical round that's an hour long, and the final round is usually like 3+ hour multi-round final round. But I was like packing them up. I wasn't working anymore, so I just had like 20, 30 interviews in a day. And then at the end of the week, I was telling everyone like I already had a job offer in hand. Obviously, no, I didn't say that verbatim. I was like, this other company is prepared to make me an offer, because I was like desperate for a job. I was trying to pressure them as well. That was one of the sales tactics that I learned that in the technical recruitment job that I had. And it was like I wasn't lying, because if they're interviewing you, they're technically prepared to make you an offer, right? Because they haven't said no yet. So that's what I was telling everyone. And then people were like expediting the process for me. So this job in Arizona expedited me, and then I ended up getting an offer from them that Friday. I started Monday interviewing, and I got a job offer that Friday. And it was a shitty offer. It was a shitty offer. It was still 6 figures, but compared to what I was making before in the title, they bumped me down. They bumped me down from a senior to a mid-level engineer. And I was tight. I was tight because I think they understood, the recruiter at the time, that recruiter there, they knew that the industry, everyone was getting laid off, so there's a bunch of talent. I'm sure they were interviewing a bunch of people, and they're trying to get the cheapest talent that was also like, of caliber of like, they're trying to pay Arizona prices for Silicon Valley talent. And they ended up getting it, quote unquote, right? Because I was working from Silicon Valley. I was a senior engineer, and they're hiring me at a mid-level so they could pay me mid-level range. And they were using the excuse that I got like one question wrong on the interview at the end. And so, which is funny to me, because like if they really wanted, like if I really got it wrong, they wouldn't have offered me a job anyway. But anyway, they just wanted me for cheap. So then I was like, all right, I got 2 could play at this game. I accepted the job offer. I came in. This was the worst job I ever worked in my life, and I've worked a lot of jobs in my life. Like at one point, I was working like multiple retail jobs, and I was working at the state fair and all these things. I was doing life insurance sales, recruitment, like student jobs, the bowling alley, pool table. I was like doing warehousing for Levi's, and like that was a shitty job. But this job, by far, I don't care how much they're paying me, was the worst job I've ever worked. And it was because like the environment, the culture, no one really cared about you, in the sense of like, at least other places that don't care about you, they still like act nice. This place was just like straight up micromanaging, like yelling at you, talking, like making you, like degrading you. Like it was just a different culture that I was just not about. And so I just didn't do one thing there. I just showed up, and within a month they tried to pip me, or they're attempting to pip me, and I did the same thing I did before. Negotiate the pip. I said, I don't want to be here. Like, let's negotiate exit package. So they gave me another 2 months of pay, which was kind of crazy, because then I worked for a month, barely doing anything. And then because they were trying to have me mentor people as a mid-level engineer, when they're the one bumped me down, they're expecting me to do senior level work. And I was not having it, y'all. They were trying to treat me like I don't want to go into too much detail there, but it was a crazy stint, 1 month in, out, got an extra 2 months, and then I looked for more jobs. And then I ended up scoring 2 roles in that next interviewing spree, and that was a pretty tough interviewing time, because it was transitioning to a downturn in the market where it was really hard to land jobs. There was less jobs getting posted every day, because it was like these layoffs from Meta, Google, like all the top tech companies were laying off, let alone the smaller companies. Everyone was getting laid off. So it was a tough time in the industry for most people to get a job. But, me being who I am, I was able to get 2 offers, accepted both, and did both. And that's kind of where I'm at today. One was a very large company in the Silicon Valley. Very handsome pay there still. I think I got in right before the lock of the downturn, essentially, of the industry. And then the other one is at another startup within the AI field in Austin, Texas. So love these 2 jobs, and I kind of went into this more at peace and more sane and more grateful and more thankful, and kind of wanted to look at these jobs as like, all right, I went through this crazy stint, ego-driven stint, and now I want to kind of like take a step back from my ego and really hone in on like who I am and the skill set I have and what I want to do. And being able to buy the home recently and also having these jobs with like great coworkers, great culture, and great work at hand. It was refreshing. It was a lot refreshing, and it made me feel like, all right, now I'm in like a sweet spot. Like I don't need to outperform, but also can care for the companies and can care for the peers and the ones around me, and be a good coworker as well. I'm sure me being the coworker I was before, like all my other coworkers didn't necessarily like me because I was just not even showing up at the time. So now I'm like showing up everywhere. I'm trying to be the best I can be in all realms, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So that's kind of the mindset I wanted to take and be or have going into these jobs. And it's been going great. I've been working these two jobs for the last 9 months, 8 months, and there's no signs of leaving. There's no signs of anything bad or anything like that. And I'm able to maintain both. And the mindset now that I have is, like I said, how I do one thing is how I do everything. So I'm trying to perform everywhere, and also set expectations. Take a little bits and pieces from what I've learned from other jobs, and keep it here. And I'm thankful too, because the job market don't look too crazy, too hot right now. I do have some peers that are able to find jobs, but I have a lot of people in the industry that are struggling looking for another job. So thankful as I can be, and I'm still having that goal in mind of like, this ain't the end all be all. Maybe one job's the end all be all for me, but right now I'm trying to like generate as much capital to buy more homes, and so I can transition into this like making money on my own rather than working for other people. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what corporate America is. You're working for other people, and that's not a bad thing per se, but that's not for me. And so this kind of alludes me to, do I recommend this to everyone out there? No, for the most people I would say no. I think working multiple jobs is not for everybody. If you're like me and you can manage expectations and also kind of fake it and fake being nice and not care about the company and potentially like your coworkers at the same time, because your work does indirectly affect other people, and some jobs actually might directly affect other people. For me personally, my work didn't necessarily directly affect other people as an engineer, and the projects that I was on, it wasn't like directly affecting many people, but of course there's indirect effects. So there's going to be a time frame, at least when we first start this, and this is the mistake that I made, I think, but I had to learn the hard way, was that when it's ego driven, it's very hard on your mental health, and I wouldn't recommend that on anyone. But I had to go through that, endure that, and learn from it, so that I can actually be good coworkers and also still maintain multiple jobs, or two jobs at the current time frame. And it works out now for me. I think without having gone through those ego-driven tribulations, I wouldn't be able to have these two jobs and perform quite well at both of them at the same time. But like I said, this isn't for most people. I don't think most people can even secure a job very quickly, or like say no to like their job and just so they can interview, or place themselves, or I wouldn't say that's the word, but this isn't for everyone. I think it's okay to climb the corporate ladder for jobs as long as you're a good person. I think that's really what it is. I think there was a part of me that wasn't entirely a good person when I was very ego driven. Not to say that I'm not a good person. I try my best to be a good person, but sometimes the ego gets in the way, and you let things get personal, and then you take things personal when it's strictly business. And so yeah, I wouldn't say this is for everyone, and that's okay. I don't think everything has to be for everyone, but this ended up being for me, and I'm very thankful for the whole process and everything I've learned. And so it's been a wild ride, and honestly, I'm excited to see where the future holds for me. And I don't know how long I'm gonna continue to work, multiple jobs, if I'm even gonna get a third job. Actually, what I've been telling myself is that I hope these are my last W-2s ever. I hope, one would be like my long-standing job just for like health benefits. I hope I get to one point. I hope I get to a point in life eventually where the money isn't like oh, I need to make more money to like be like happier or whatever, or to support my family and myself and my future and my legacy. I hope I get to a point where I'm like, I'm just working these jobs because I enjoy it, and also because I need the health benefits or whatever. Because I don't want to make way so much money where like I can just buy everything. I don't think that's the end all be all for me. For me, it's more so just being more free, more independent, and more free. I think that's really what it is. And I still want to continue to learn. I think, working these jobs, I'm trying to learn and absorb as much as I can while I can. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. And I hope this video was informative for those of you out there. But, yeah, if you guys want to know more or anything like that, the comments are down below. This is a fun video to make. This might be risky. I've been kind of holding off making this video for a long time just because working multiple jobs, like the whole rule is like, yo, don't tell anyone. Someone can easily just hate you and just, hey, this guy's working multiple jobs, report HR, and but I think this video, it's sending off a good message of like, do this if you want to pursue it because you landed on this video, but just know the risk and prioritize your mental health. I think that's an important one. Go to therapy if you need to. I'm not too proud to say that I've been going to therapy, but yeah, I think this is a video for those of you out there that are considering working multiple jobs and joining the overemployed lifestyle, at least within tech. I think this might span across other industries too, but I think it's the most apparent in tech. And yeah, I didn't even like go deep into that, how I came across the overemployed subreddit. I was there when it was like 3,000 members. I think right now there's like damn near, I think it's even over 300,000 members there now. So like the whole idea of overemployment isn't new, and working multiple jobs isn't new by any means. Like I said before, I used to work at least 2 jobs all the time throughout my life. When I dropped out of college the first time, I worked at Levi's doing warehousing as a supervisor, inventory supervisor, and then I was also working Macy's in the menswear department, so I'd go back and forth. And then I was doing life insurance on the side, and then after that I went back and finished college, and I was an instructor there while I was doing like running the blog for the econ department, while I was also doing the recreational facility. Like I was working like multiple jobs there. Also, I was doing YouTube a lot more at the time too. And so I think I want to take the stigma off of all this with this video, hopefully too, as well. It's like once you get into like a career, it's essentially frowned upon, It's frowned upon to work multiple jobs and have multiple careers. But then once you look at the higher ups, like Elon Musk, for example, or just other people that like C-suite, they're working like multiple companies. It's okay for them to do it. But when it comes to like the middle tier jobs, like engineers or even like doctors aren't even frowned upon. The doctors can work at the hospital and they can moonlight and work at other private industries. It might be illegal for some, but like it's almost encouraged for others because they got to pay back their student loans, for example. But all of a sudden when we get to in the tech industry, there's a huge bias in moral rights and ethics in terms of working multiple jobs. I don't think that should be there. I think the best way to go about it, now that I've been talking about it a little bit here, and to kind of close it up too, is like the best way to go about this whole overemployment thing, if you're considering it, is to be a good person and don't let it be ego-driven. Still perform, and if you could perform and be the best you can be at all your jobs, that's the move. I think you'll feel more accomplished, feel more rewarded, and feel more at peace with yourself if you know that you invest what you can into these jobs rather than intentionally investing as little as you can. What you do at one thing is what you do in the other things. That's kind of what I'm alluding to. But I'm gonna leave it there. I hope y'all like this video. But catch me on the next one, y'all. It's been a pleasure. Again, my name's TN. Peace.